the air, you know.
Why are you crying right now?
Because it just means so much.
The Black Sabbath lead singer Ozzy Osbourne has died at the age of 76.
For him, what he does, he loves to perform. It is the air that he breathes, and this is the
Ozzy Osbourne died in the house that was his last
longest he's ever been home. And it's time for him to get back on the road because he's driving
protection from the public eye. Hours later, Sharon Osbourne suddenly appeared with a statement that shocked the art and media world. "I just thought he was the funniest, sweetest guy I'd ever met because he was so vulnerable about everything, and that just attracted me to him." For decades, she had controlled all the information surrounding him. A completely different truth about Ozzy Osbourne's death was confirmed, and the only person standing up to confirm it was none other than the wife he always called the last and only. Ozzy Osbourne died of respiratory failure due to complications from late-stage Parkinson's disease at his home in Buckinghamshire in the early hours of July 22nd. When Ozzy said he had a Parkinsonian tremor, he did, and he was born with the Park2 gene, which is the best one to have. This information was confirmed by the family through a brief but official press release signed in full by Sharon Osbourne and their 3 children, Amy Osbourne, Kelly Osbourne, and Jack Osbourne. The death occurred under medically controlled conditions with the full presence of close family members and a special care team actively arranged in advance by Sharon Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne's choice to end his life at home was the result of a plan that had been in place for months, with Sharon Osbourne playing a key role in organizing and overseeing it. "We were prepared for this," she said in an interview shortly after the funeral announcement. Ozzy didn't want to be in a hospital any longer. He was no longer in control of his body, but his will was very clear. She said the decision to maintain home care was based on Ozzy Osbourne's clear wishes, expressed in writing and in direct conversations with his family. Internal family meetings began in early July, focusing on coordinating medical personnel, establishing a care system, and preparing for the aftermath. Sharon Osbourne refused any form of media support and did not allow access to the press or international news agencies for 72 hours before the official announcement. During this period, all information was kept strictly internal and only passed through the Osbourne family's legal representatives. A final video call was held 3 days before his death between Ozzy Osbourne and his children. According to Jack Osbourne, his father had completely lost the ability to speak but was still able to communicate through eye contact and minimal facial expressions. Jack Osbourne made it clear in a family statement, "We understood what he was trying to say. There was nothing unexpected or ambiguous about the moment. Everyone understood the meaning of the farewell." Out of the 3 children, only one person was asked to meet privately with Ozzy Osbourne in his final hours, Sharon Osbourne. In a personal letter that Sharon Osbourne officially released in a press release, she affirmed, "He and I kept our old promises. There was no intervention from machines. There was no transfer. Nothing was done outside of Ozzy's wishes." The letter did not specify when the decision was made, but it confirmed that the agreement was made early on and was maintained consistently until the end. He died conscious. All indications are that he was fully aware of his circumstances. Sharon Osbourne added, "The body was kept in a private room for 12 hours before being transferred to a prearranged burial site. The procedure was carried out by a private funeral service contracted by Sharon Osbourne on a long-term basis with full confidentiality. No media artists or business partners were allowed access during this time. All activities were carried out within the family. The burial took place in the Osbourne family's private plot, which Ozzy had stated was the only place he wanted to rest. The funeral was closed to the public, not live-streamed, and not photographed by the press. The program was not made public, but it was confirmed to have been composed by Sharon Osbourne herself. According to the postscript of the announcement, the entire soundtrack for the funeral was unreleased recordings made by Ozzy Osbourne during his recovery from his 2019 accident. The final track used at the funeral was a remix of "See You on the Other Side," an exclusive recording requested by Ozzy Osbourne himself in 2023. The relationship between Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne entered a period of serious crisis after the news of an extramarital affair by Ozzy Osbourne was confirmed. The discovery led to a short-term separation between the two, with several temporary internal changes being made within the family. In a subsequent statement, Sharon Osbourne characterized her marriage as a breakdown of trust and asked Ozzy Osbourne to withdraw from all performing activities and stop all work schedules. During the internal treatment period, Ozzy Osbourne voluntarily entered a specialized treatment facility. According to information from the family representative, the purpose of this was to re-evaluate the overall ability to control behavior and at the same time, re-establish the limits in personal relationships. After the end of the treatment period, Ozzy Osbourne continued to undergo a long-term psychotherapy process organized separately with the indirect participation of Sharon Osbourne and the children. The rebuilding of the relationship was not done publicly, and it was only when Sharon Osbourne confirmed in writing that the marriage was still alive that all family and professional activities were restored. According to internal management documents, Ozzy Osbourne signed an additional family legal agreement committing to limit personal interactions outside the marriage, including financial oversight, media coverage, and public appearances. These provisions were established to ensure the restructuring of the marital relationship under a consensual control mechanism. In addition to the legal factors, the reconciliation between the two was also influenced by the three children's involvement. In a private exchange between family members, Kelly Osbourne and Jack Osbourne were confirmed to be the ones who proposed the reorganization of family life in the form of a shared schedule, medical support, and a reduction in media load. All activities related to television performance or publishing during this time were frozen and only restored in parts after. Internal agreements took effect. Following the completion of the staffing and operational adjustments, Sharon Osbourne resumed her role as Ozzy Osbourne's direct manager with full control over financial and medical decisions. The relationship is considered to be on a steady course following the restructuring, although it is still closely monitored by an independent legal and psychological team hired specifically for long-term monitoring purposes. Those working within the support system are required to sign comprehensive confidentiality agreements and are not permitted to share any content outside of the approved process. Sharon Osbourne then suspended all personal work, including media activities, appearances at events, and independent projects. All time was transferred to managing the personal life and medical logistics of Ozzy Osbourne, including scheduling specialized examinations, treatments, and coordinating administrative procedures related to adjusting the legal status of the individual in the advanced stage of the disease. This allocation was made within the framework of internal documents between the two people without any intervention from third parties. Recovery from the crisis has been accompanied by a readjustment of family roles. Kelly Osbourne is responsible for social media content, while Jack Osbourne focuses on protecting his father's privacy during legal and administrative proceedings. Amy Osbourne, as the eldest child, remains neutral and only participates in some internal activities when asked. This division of roles helps stabilize the family support system without creating conflicting roles. Legally, there was no formal. The withdrawal from the marriage between Sharon Osbourne and Ozzy Osbourne after the above event was significant. The relationship was maintained on the basis of mutual recommitment through clear legal forms of control with written confirmation of each stage. Sharon Osbourne said in an official statement, "Nothing was spontaneous. Everything was considered, confirmed, and approved. We maintained the relationship by re-establishing the system not based on immediate emotions." The relationship after that period was not redefined by new labels but treated as a stable structure within a framework of mutual control. Sharon Osbourne held a central coordinating position in the entire support network for Ozzy Osbourne, from internal operations to end-of-life preparations. Her continued role in this capacity after the incident was seen as a decisive factor in prolonging the final stability in Ozzy Osbourne's life and career management model. Ozzy Osbourne and Sharon Osbourne's relationship began in a professional context when she was directly involved in the performance of the band of which he was the lead singer. This early period marked a transition between artist and manager, with Sharon Osbourne gradually moving from observer to coordinator of performance strategy. Her access to internal documents and schedules increased her ability to influence Ozzy Osbourne's career decisions later on. When Ozzy Osbourne stepped down as the frontman of his old band, Sharon Osbourne took charge of the entire reorientation of his solo career. Contracts listed her as the sole authority on all commercial recording distribution and media matters. All music productions after this point were under Sharon Osbourne's control, including licensing rights, selecting partners, marketing plans, and post-production oversight. This form of control remained constant throughout Ozzy Osbourne's entire career. In building her personal brand, Sharon Osbourne used a strategy that focused on Ozzy Osbourne's inner conflict and unconventional behavior. Controversial actions were used as a tool to attract media attention and shape his unique image in the music market. Nonetheless, every image statement and product had to pass through at least one layer of censorship from the media department designated by Sharon Osbourne. The financial system was also reorganized into a separate structure, with Sharon Osbourne controlling cash flows through at least 3 layers of legal entities, including a tour management company, a music copyright company, and a personal image agency. All expenses related to living, treatment, logistics, and investment were based on a fixed budget model established annually according to quantitative criteria and occupational health forecasts. Health and legal risk reserves were replenished periodically, ensuring continuity of operations even during periods of performance interruption. Within the family, Sharon Osbourne was the overall planner of her children's activities, education, and information security. Press, television, and social media access were tightly controlled to align with the Ozzy Osbourne brand image. All public activities related to the family were planned in advance through an independent legal department to protect privacy and control consistency in communication. Sharon Osbourne's combined role as wife and manager kept her inseparable from any phase of Ozzy Osbourne's career. She had final say over musical choices, performance partners, brand affiliations, and collaborative projects. Many long-term contracts bore her name as co-owner or legal representative. Franchise agreements involving Ozzy Osbourne's image, including reality television shows and music events, were all directly approved by Sharon Osbourne. In addition to her business interests, Sharon Osbourne also oversaw Ozzy Osbourne's medical and treatment records from the early stages of his solo career. Physician orders, medical schedules, and insurance were organized into a unified system under her management. This helped ensure continuity of care and manage unexpected situations when Ozzy Osbourne encountered issues during tours or long recording sessions. Throughout their collaboration, Ozzy Osbourne's operating model was not based on artist privileges but on a personalized organization with scale and strict internal control. Sharon Osbourne built this structure from the human resources system to asset management, communication strategy, and backstage operations, helping Ozzy Osbourne maintain a continuous image in the market without being interrupted by personal events. This structure created high stability in performance activities and helped control crises when unexpected events occurred. With such an absolutely controlled coordination mechanism, the relationship between the two people went beyond the framework of a normal marriage to become a highly disciplined organizational system in which artistic rebellion was placed within tight operating limits with strategies, scripts, and unified coordination mechanisms. As Ozzy Osbourne's disease progressed, after signs of movement disorders appeared and his central nervous system began to lose control, his medical records were transferred to special monitoring mode. A disease monitoring system was established at the main residence, coordinating 3 functional groups: neurological support, motor rehabilitation, and symptomatic treatment. Sharon Osbourne directly signed contracts with private medical units requiring specialized personnel to be maintained in each group, operating on a rotating basis according to the on-site care model. During the course of his illness, Ozzy Osbourne had to suspend all public appearances. Short-term appearances were only permitted when 3 criteria were met: the ability to sit still, stable speech, and minimal control of facial expressions. These criteria were not intended to maintain a public image but to ensure safety in contact and the ability to react to external forces. All events took place in closed conditions with a medical team on duty, and written reports were made after each move. Nutritional activity and outpatient management were organized as a standalone administrative model. Sharon Osbourne delegated the responsibility of coordination to a personal medical advisory board, which worked on a closed schedule with weekly cross-checks and progress reviews. The reporting system was coded and stored internally, circulating only within the minimum legal limits required. Monitoring of central nervous system and respiratory function was considered the most important factor at this stage due to the risk of rapid and irreversible deterioration. The move to Switzerland was made after completing the legal procedures related to unlimited treatment in a specialized facility. Sharon Osbourne requested that her treatment plan be separated from the national health system to ensure full autonomy in her end-of-life decisions. The documents related to this were: the advanced power of attorney was established, allowing the authorized person to make medical decisions independent of the collective consensus system. This was one of the final steps in implementing a proactive worst-case scenario mechanism. As the neurodegenerative process reached the point of incapacitation, physical therapy support shifted to maintenance, with no rehabilitative exercises being used. Late-stage interventions were focused on limiting pain, stabilizing peripheral nerves, and controlling muscle spasticity. Ozzy Osbourne remained conscious throughout the entire process, and his vital signs were maintained at a level sufficient for him to sign administrative documents related to his estate and will. The system continued to operate until death was confirmed. All medical records, prescriptions, treatment plans, progress indicators, and final professional conclusions were stored encrypted and handed over to the legal representative according to the post-audit process. Sharon Osbourne ended her role as medical administrator after signing a document to close the file, confirming that all responsibilities under the power of attorney had been completed. This process concluded the entire end-of-life management phase of Ozzy Osbourne, ending a series of continuous operations that lasted for many years under an organizational model established and fully controlled by Sharon Osbourne. Regarding the handling of the funeral and legacy, Ozzy Osbourne's funeral legal documents were completed internally and were not transferred to the public system other than the death notice as prescribed. The handling of personal assets, intellectual property rights, and artistic heritage was carried out under the direct supervision of Sharon Osbourne as the full attorney. There was no dispute in determining the inheritance rights or the final exploitation rights. The terms of the transfer of assets were completed before the time of death, with the participation of the personal legal advisor, representatives of the 3 children, and the copyright storage unit. Ownership of unreleased recordings and unreleased projects was allocated to Sharon Osbourne on a reserving basis. This artistic legacy includes many musical works that have never been commercially licensed, as well as exclusive recordings used only for family or private ceremonial purposes. Ownership remains in place until further direction from the legal administrator. Regarding the memorial and archive, Sharon Osbourne rejected the proposal to establish an organization named after Ozzy Osbourne, in the form of a foundation or memorial institute. The reason stated in writing was to maintain full control over the content, image, and ultimate commercial direction. Any form of honor, if any, would only be done symbolically or integrated into independent projects, not organized under a third-party legal structure. The family was unanimous in their decision to maintain this principle to protect the right to completely control factors related to personal reputation. In the administrative will system, Ozzy Osbourne established a clear distribution structure. Sharon Osbourne held full administrative decision-making power, Kelly Osbourne retained media consultation, Jack Osbourne was assigned to supervise digital assets, and Amy Osbourne received non-commercial music files. The division of power was not based on the principle of equal division, but on the specific functions and operational experience of each person. All rights were exercised under internal supervision and cross-checking within the family, and were not delegated to third parties. In addition to physical assets and intellectual property, Ozzy Osbourne's personal files were transferred under a confidential process. This included diaries, letters, legal documents, unpublished manuscripts, and all data relating to his personal activities from before and after his end-of-life treatment. This data group was treated separately from commercial assets and was not to be used publicly without Sharon Osbourne's written approval. Administratively, Sharon Osbourne terminated her role as conservator after signing a confirmation of completion of obligations related to assets, wills, and posthumous communications. She refused to continue any commercial projects related to the Ozzy Osbourne brand, declined to participate in media public appearances, and gave up the right to negotiate future contracts. The termination of this role was not through a media statement but was established through administrative documents circulated within the family management system. Ozzy Osbourne's journey ended with initiative, discipline, and absolute respect for personal choice. What remains is not just music, but how a person lived and died the way he wanted. If you find this story worthy of being remembered, please share the video so that more people know. Click subscribe to not miss the next content and leave a comment if you have anything to say about Ozzy Osbourne's life. We will continue to be here, recording the stories that need to be heard.